2/3 of the world's biodiversity has been lost in the past 50 years. About 40% of plant species are critically endangered, and scientists fear we may be disappearing them faster than they can be found, named, and researched. Our world exists in a fragile equilibrium, but that is threatened by species extinction and climate change. Restoring this natural mosaic of interrelated species is vital to the future health of the planet and our own, according to experts. Tree planting programs, active nature conservation measures, and high-tech carbon sequestration solutions are intended to help combat the loss of biodiversity and the climate crisis. A growing number of people believe that the only way to restore what we have lost is to trust nature to recover itself, a process known as rewilding. For some, this is a controversial topic. They reject the reintroduction of wild animals such as the wolf or the Eurasian lynx. However, this modern conservation movement has found particular resonance in a European nation. But what is rewilding? Rewilding is based on the principle that nature knows best how to protect itself. But because of the damage we've already done to her, she needs support to protect herself. Across Europe, we have lost enormous amounts of native flora and fauna that are essential for the balance of our ecosystems. In order to make our environment wilder again, we have to create the right conditions. This can be done through measures such as reintroducing disappeared species, regenerating forests, and preventing the disruption of rivers. Renatured ecosystems could offer threatened animal and plant species a new habitat. The theory is that by giving nature a little nudge and then stepping back, we can stop the incredible loss of biodiversity and the worsening climate crisis. A classic example of the success of rewilding can be found in Yellowstone National Park in the USA. When wolves were hunted to almost extinction at the beginning of the 20th century, their preferred prey multiplied greatly. The number of moose increased so much that the habitat was completely overgrazed. The population of aspen and willow trees suffered from the invasions of the animals. They often failed to develop their full size and develop seeds. That in turn meant that songbirds lost their habitat and beavers had no more material to build their dams with. The riverbanks began to erode. The water temperatures rose without the natural shade of the trees. The loss of wolves in Yellowstone National Park created a cascading effect on the entire ecosystem of the park. In 1995, 14 wolves were captured from Jasper National Park in Canada and brought to the United States by rangers. After a period of getting used to them, they were released in the park, an attempt to replace the animals that had been hunted for centuries. Over the next 20 years, their numbers increased, and the renewed presence of this important ecosystem predator brought the balance back to Yellowstone. Today, resettlement is seen as a model of how seemingly small steps can help heal the natural environment we have devastated. Rewilding has become an increasingly popular movement in Scotland in recent years. The Scottish Rewilding Alliance, the SWA, calls on politicians to develop a strategy that will make the country the first rewilding nation in the world. In the run-up to the Scottish parliamentary elections on Thursday, the SWA wants to see a solid commitment from political parties to tackle the natural and climate crisis and to create jobs in rural communities. Alliance believes that rewilding should be part of these commitments. The political parties and the public are faced with many choices in this election, including important decisions that will shape the future of Scotland's landscapes and seas, said Steve Micklewright, SWA coordinator. He explained that all political parties are being asked to commit to 5 different measures to protect nature and stimulate the economy. The obligation to renature 30% of the public land, to establish a community fund to support regreening in cities and communities, to assist the reintroduction of key species such as beavers and the Eurasian lynx in places where there is local support, to create a coastal zone where dredging and trawling are not allowed, and to establish a deer population control plan so the land can recover from overgrazing. The Scottish public also supports this idea. Last year, the SWA commissioned a survey across Scotland that showed widespread support for the principle of rewilding. More than 3/4 of the people who gave their opinion supported the concept, 10 times as many as those who opposed it. We know that the public expects real process and progress from politicians on rewilding, and we encourage people to consider these issues when looking at parties' election manifestos, added Micklewright. The opportunities here are immense for our climate, biodiversity, and a host of potential social and economic benefits that come with making Scotland the world's first rewilding nation. And it might be a bit surprising if you hear me saying so, but I don't so necessarily think that, especially in the case of rewilding, there will be big differences between the parties. I didn't go to that part of the manifestos of the parties in Scotland, but here in Germany, there's not such a big difference in the manifestos about rewilding. We had the same here in the case of wolves. We had rewilded wolves in Germany again. And of course, there's a discussion when wolves are checking the amount of their prey so that they don't damage the woods too much, somebody still has to keep the number of wolves in check. And there are some differences here between the parties, because there is a moment when, and I said that in other videos as well, hunting is climate protection. And either if you hunt prey, or we have to talk about hunting wolves if they get too many for the amount of prey that there is. And so there are discussions, but not about rewilding in general. And if you want to stay informed, please subscribe to my channel. Auf Wiedersehen.